In this episode of Oplev Salg, we explore sustainable transformation and high performance in B2B sales. How do you create strong commercial results without burning people out? And how do you build a sales organization that is not only competitive, but resilient and sustainable over time? Today's guest is Pia Hautamäki, professor at LUT University and an international voice in B2B sales research, sustainability and digital transformation in sales organizations.
Welcome to Copenhagen.
Thank you so much, Selma. Good to be here. And thanks for the invite.
And thanks for joining to our podcast. How come that you study sales for research?
That is a lovely question. Actually, I have a background at the industry side. So I have been working over 15 years as a salesperson myself and also working in a sales managerial positions. And I faced several times challenges to hire salespeople because everybody just wanted to be directors or experts or something like that. And, I didn't really understand that why is this? Because for me, selling has been best part of business life ever because it includes everything. You can network, you can, together with your customers, try to solve their challenges in the business. So that was actually the starting point that I decided that I want to do a PhD and study a little bit more how to really what are these, challenges and why sales has this not so nice image.
And now you work as professor in Finland,
Yes.
Focusing on sales. I'm wondering, is it common in Finland that you do research in sales? How many sales scholars there are in Finland?
Actually, this is a big surprise, probably for you also, because we have quite many sales professors. It's growing a lot, and we have several actually universities who are teaching, sales and have sales degree programs. So LUT, our Lahti campus, so we have our own sales degree program on strategic sales for masters, and then also University of Eastern Finland, they have their masters program for sales management actually, and then also Turku University of Applied Sciences and Tampere University of Applied Sciences, they have their programs which are more like practically oriented, but also science-based universities have their programs. And just to add something, so Tampere University is also building up now their sales education. So we have quite many sales professors. We have not had so many sales professorships until today, but that's growing heavily. So I'm really happy about where we are right now in Finland.
But those are very positive news that are coming from Finland in
Yes.
that sense. What is your view on the role of sales scholarship in broader marketing scholarship?
It's evolving. Selling is really transforming, and of course these recent shifts, if we think about digitalization overall, how it transformed. And I was working as a salesperson, so those were the times that we were just transitioning to the CRMs, that we started to have customer relationship management systems. And today, what we talk about, the role of AI, how AI is taking, the role of some of the routine tasks as a part of the sales role. Of course, at the marketing field, that's the same thing. But of course, because selling as such, and especially B2B sales that I'm studying, so it has been based mainly on buyer-seller interactions and human connections. So the entire digitalization, B2B platforms, we can see how there are more and more different kind of platforms like as marketplaces which are transforming sales profession. So to keep it simple, it's transforming, and we really need to, and I hope that there will really be more sales scholars because we need more research. We need more understanding what kind of capabilities are needed and what kind of sales management of course also is needed in the future. So that is the lack that I see that still is, because we are still kind of old-fashioned how we do in many companies selling. So that's why I'm super happy, and also thinking about, I have been also honored to serve as a president at the Global Sales and Science Institute, which is a global institution in which we of course gather once a year with sales professors globally, and we share best practices, how to educate the future sales people, and also we build networks to do more sales research and try to grow the field. You know Selma this well, so I see that there's a lot of there's a lot going on, but still we need to have more sales scholars. So I'm always happy when I can see some new PhD students focusing on sales as a part of their PhD.
I still face some eyebrows being kind of a bit looking on me a bit strangely when I say that I did my PhD in sales. And then they ask me what specifically, like, is it really in sales? So I believe we still have some way to go there.
Yes, so I agree. And I know often when somebody is asking that, what is the thing that you do your research on? So when you're saying sales, so it's like, what is that? Is that science? Can you really study sales? So I know what you're talking about.
I have a few jokes about that. Is it a science? But I will leave it for later on. So I'm wondering, you said that there are still a large number of organizations which are taking sales in kind of old school manner. And then I would assume that those organizations are focusing on performance in very short-term oriented way, while we are kind of moving a little bit more towards long-term oriented view on performance. Can you comment a bit on that?
Yes, this is interesting, and of course my research, as said, focuses on B2B sales, and often the aim, of course, when building partnerships, so that's for long term. But however, if we look at the sales managers and, for example, the target setting and what kind of measures they are to really focus and follow the performance of sales people, so often those are focused on short term. And of course we have already there a mismatch, because it's of course quite difficult for the salespeople really to focus long term if they can get all these benefits out of closing the deals as soon as possible. So but yeah, we still of course need to do research at that side. But I can see that these companies that I'm working with, that have this long-term focus. So I would say that they do more collaborations with their customers, on a long term. I mean that they do not just focus on this one sales deal, but they have more collaborations on how to build solutions of the future. And this is, by the way, one we just discussed about digitalization, but also the demands behalf of the environmental sustainability and circularity. So those are also pushing companies, B2B organizations, towards more long-term orientation. So there are many pressures where sales organizations, why they have to really take the long-term perspective.
I'm sure that many people who are listening us are wondering how in practice they can translate long-term orientation into KPIs for salespeople, because at the end of the day we have to have some KPIs. So can you, having in mind that you are working a lot with companies, you are doing a lot of consultancy work, so can you give us some advices, or at least some good case studies that you observed? So how to translate long-term orientation into KPIs for salespeople?
I hope that I could have some, simple answers to this, but as we know, we do not have simple answers because the businesses and industries are so different. So you cannot just, give certain answers that what kind of KPIs or what kind of targets you should set. But what if I just give an advice? So how to think about targets and KPIs is to look them from the multiple level perspectives. So we need to think about of course the individual level targets, which are like based on the salesperson as such. But of course we need to think about also what this particular salesperson needs to accomplish with the customers and partners, and those are of course different than this probably short-term targets within the salesperson. But when you look overall more from kind of meso level and look at the customers and the partners, and even when you start to look at the entire value chains, so then of course the targets are totally, and KPIs are totally different. And again, if I look for example companies that I have been studying lately, which are really focused on selling circular offerings, so you really need to think about together actually with your value chain partners, that how, for example, you lobby EU to set up those kind of regulations, which are also that you see it's important from the environmental sustainability perspective. So as we can see, so this is quite different targeting and a KPI setting than it has been previously. So in what kind of industry you are really like operating, and of course what are the goals? If you are just there to do your business with the short term and just close the deals and just be performing for the short term, but if you really want to be building sustainable business for the long run, so then you definitely need to think with a little bit broader perspectives how to manage sales and what kind of targets you should, for example, set. So this is very complex, and this is actually hopefully also a growing research area in our field.
And sometimes many things are easier said than done. And maybe some of the topics that you are talking about are to some extent maybe easier to implement for companies that are just starting compared to maybe some companies that been here and around for many years. So I would assume that those companies that been around for many years, they have to make some transformation from one way of looking on their targets to another way. And you've been pioneering this as sustainable transformation of B2B sales. Can you explain us a little bit what is sustainable transformation of B2B sales?
Yeah, this is one of my very favorite topics that I have been, able to publish recently with my colleagues, and especially how sales management is actually changing when sales organizations are facing environmental sustainability and circular offerings. And it really transforms overall the sales management and how to really look the role of salespeople. So actually the focus on selling is not anymore at the individual level. So if we think about research, Selma, that our B2B sales research has been quite seller-driven and seller-focused, product-led processes, and really focusing on how to add value for customers. But this entire, big transformation, which is because of the regulations, of course, and also the customers are willing to have, it's not so, topical today, of course, due to the politics that we have heard recently from some other bigger countries, that the sustainability is not really, in the core and focus, and many companies are questioning that is it really so that we should now focus on environmental sustainability because we are hearing so different kind of stories. But however, at the end, the customers, we are here in Europe, the customers, B2B customers, they are, wanting, and they want to see, however, are you sustainable, because they need to report, of course, their sustainability, how they are cutting their emissions for European Union. So this means that, however, no matter what is the environment right now and how the politics has been run, so we, however, need to make changes that we can operate on a more environmental sustainable manner.
But I would assume that these changes, despite the fact that they're being at organizational level, will also influence individual level how we do our business. And in that sense, I'm also noticing that nowadays we talk a lot more about well-being of salespeople that are implementing those changes. What is your view there?
Yeah, I see that, salespeople, they are facing a lot of pressures, there are a lot of tensions that sales management need to manage nowadays. And that's due, of course, of these, different kind of trends and shifts that are transforming selling overall. And that's why, of course, you're right. We also need to focus on not only onto this macro and meso level sales management, approaches, but also we need to look at how the sales person role is changing and what kind of, capability pressures there are. And we actually looked on top performers because that was something that, we noticed that there isn't a lot of research about top performers. And they are, the most important asset for the companies, to have these people who are like bringing in, the money and doing their targets annually. So we were curious that how do these, top performers take care of their well-being? And we jumped into this topic, and actually we noticed that they are really, strict about how they spend their like leisure time, and they are really like taking care of their well-being. They are exercising a lot, and like if you remember this old way of doing sales, this kind of old way. Probably there is still this, in Finland, I would say that these sauna sessions with a lot of alcohol and, just building relationships in this a bit more informal sessions. But nowadays it's like a non-alcoholic line and that you really need to think about that you are effective in those customer relations, and also thinking about that the customers we saw it also in the study that they are not willing and ready to take time anymore for these leisure activities. They want to do business during the working hours, and then they want to stay with the family there. Yes,
private time.
Yes, but of course there I'm sure that this probably is a very Nordic style, so how people are exercising. But yeah, that is what we noticed, that they are really taking care of themselves. They are very willing to develop all the time their sales skills. So they are not ready. They are all the time seeing areas where they need to develop themselves, and they are also looking at the big picture kind of at the organizations. They are not just focusing on their own sales work, these top performers. They are also having and taking this strategic approach. They want to support the entire organization to strive and grow, and really that was very eye-opening how they really, but it has also its negative sides also, because they are often they are doing a lot for the organization, which is of course out of their sales work, because they are supporting, for example, their younger colleagues in sales and giving all these tips how to do selling. And
But what specifically is negative there?
Negative, I would say that they cannot then focus on their own sales work. This is super important for the entire sales organization, but I would say that this is also demanded. This should be also demanding from, for example, from the other salespeople, not only these top performers. So this is also one pressure that they need to tackle with, that they just need to find that time somewhere. So they are even more effective because they have also these other hidden activities and tasks that they need to actually do.
You've been explaining findings of your research in terms of behavior of top performers, but I couldn't help myself to think also that how you are explaining behavior of top performers is very similar to how I perceive my students. So my students nowadays, they take care a lot about their well-being. They're very protective about their private time. They are very much interested into the purpose of the course, of the program,
Yes.
of the CBS.
Wow.
And maybe we are also facing a little bit of generational shift where I can compare at least my generation, where we've been very much focused on our courses, our grades, but not often observing big picture. So what's your view here?
Yeah, and I just want to comment here that actually, because we were focused on top performing salespeople, so many of them were middle aged. So they were not these, really like young people. All of them had over 50 years practical experience out of sales. But I would say here that, wow, I'm really, happy about the students and how they are really like managing, their own studies and also their early careers at the business.
So new generations are maybe much better than the older generations. Let's hope so. Well, now the question is, should we consider ourselves old generation or not?
No.
But let's leave that for the time after the podcast.
Yes.
You've been talking about change which is happening at the organizational level, and then we try to project that change at the level of individual salespeople. But I would assume that if we want to have people who are capable of leading top performing salespeople who pay a lot of attention on well-being, we also maybe need different leadership type.
Yes.
Do you tackle that topic in your research?
Yeah, we didn't really look at, different kind of leadership styles or types or something like that, but we found, some elements which are important to understand and notice when you are a leader in a team that, of course, have also the top performers. And we noticed that, often actually these top performers are left alone. So they do not get as much support as these low performers. So all the time, actually, that the supervisors, these sales leaders are, putting, so they are mainly putting it to these low performers, and these, top performers are left alone. They do not really receive constructive feedback. And actually, they didn't really get any kind of, feedback. So they were also left alone, also thinking about, feedback, which is, of course, very important, and because they were willing to develop themselves all the time and to be better also sales.
But they also need feedback.
They also need feedback. So that is something to remember as a sales manager also, that, similarly, like they are, taking time with not the top performers, but with the lower performing salespeople. So they should, take the same time also with the top performers. They need it also. So
even those best in class,
yes,
they invest a lot to support others, but they also require some support, some feedback, some encouragement.
And I would say that they deserve it similarly, like everybody else. So they were somehow left alone, and they didn't really and also thinking about how important it is to have around you those people who can give you constructive feedback. That is super important, that you can see that what are those parts that you need to develop yourself. So you are actually managing better also your top performers to even do better if you are, as a sales manager, giving also them some constructive feedback, but also, of course, positive feedback, what they are doing well and so on. And also trying to, one tip also to the sales managers, try to secure somehow your top performance time, because if they are doing a lot for the youngsters and for the rest of the sales team, so that is of course one additional activity that is important, but try to organize and find ways how these team meetings could be those places where when these top performers could share their expertise, because they are however using that time. But if they are also additionally operating as some kind of talent managers or development managers within the sales team, so of course that time is taking somewhere else, and hopefully not from the performance or from the.
I have to admit that this is very insightful what you're saying, because when I reflect now on my own experience, I've been invited many times to different companies to provide support trainings or educational activities that would target mid-performers, for example. Interesting, because then, you know, top performers, they're doing well.
Yes.
So you in companies, they would consider they don't need any additional support because they're already doing a lot, they're doing well. So they are good as they are.
Yes.
Like, don't touch them too much.
Yes.
But it seems that these people really need attention and support, which goes beyond financial incentives, for example.
Yes, and you know, the top performers are also humans. You know, they need to have, you know, these relaxing moments together, and you know, also this, like what we deserve as humans, all of us, no matter if we are top performers or low performers.
Very interesting. How to design culture which is encouraging that type of behavior?
Yeah.
Can we have that culture unintentionally? Can we design that culture in unintentional way, or we have to invest some intentional activities to reach that level, to have culture of support to top performers, but also mid performers and so on?
Yeah, of course it will be, you know, this is not really my research topic, this how to build cultures, but however, also been studying some leadership issues. I would say that, you know, build that kind of environment where everybody is able to say really the truth and what they are thinking about, and also what they are deserving, and keep the consideration at the individual level, and try to somehow support that people can share also their experiencing, not only, and also these younger ones, you know, salespeople, which were just, you know, waiting in our study. Or the top performers were actually supporting them a lot. But often these younger, you know, salespeople, they have very good examples how to close the deals or how to build the relationship. And also thinking about generations, they like naturally also have some different kind of ways how to do selling. So I would encourage as a sales manager that kind of atmosphere that we can really like share, no matter how well do you perform, but that everybody can, like, you know, share their insights, and they are appreciated equally as humans. Try to build somehow like human culture among each other. That would be my
important, and maybe we forget sometimes about it. So we are approaching to the end of the podcast. And we've been talking about a position of sales scholarship in broader marketing scholarship. We've been talking about transformation of sales, especially sustainability and circularity forces that are transforming how we observe long-term performance in sales. And now I would like to ask you for your projections of future. So how do you see future of sales scholarship and sales practice in next, let's say, up to 5 years? In academia, what are the topics that we should focus? In education, what are the skills, knowledge, and abilities that we should aim to develop with our students? And what sales leaders should be paying attention to? Too many questions, but
a big question. Yes. So of course these trends which are currently here, so are super important. So different kind of, you know, digital technologies, like I was just mentioning shortly, B2B platforms, and how B2B platforms, when we are selling and buying on a platforms at the marketplaces, so how do we like build trust there? And you know, how is the trust building happening when there's machine and machine discussing to each others? And also this is also something to get rid of those old like assumptions that B2B selling, it's always human to human selling, because we already now know from the research that there's a lot of, you know, selling happening between machines. So, and also B2B, now I'm talking about business to business selling. So we should, of course, equip our students with the skills that they really like, understand that different kind of business models relates also, of course, and gives guidance for the sales models that we should select, and also, you know, relates to the different kind of, you know, digital technologies. Is it platforms or whatever we are talking, but digital transformation overall. So that is a super, you know, very big area to be covered. What is selling in digital environments? So to equip our future salespeople with these skills. So I think that is, and it's not only about salespeople level, but of course even more at the sales management level, because sales managers, sales leaders are those people who are making the investment decisions. And if they are not knowledgeable enough, so what kind of decisions they are making? For example, if I have one study of B2B platforms, how actually deployment of a B2B platform, it's really like changing the way how the sales strategy is actually built. It's not the humans, but if you make a technological decision, so it like guides you what kind of sales strategy you have and how do you communicate with your customers. So this is very, of course, and AI is of course a part of this entire digital transformation. And also as a European, I would suggest that companies still keep into their mind environmental sustainability, and of course sustainability overall, and because the planet is not waiting for us, that we are just developing like the circular solutions and offerings. When the presidents are different, we need to take those actions now. And this is also that we should teach our salespeople innovations and more like skills to innovate, because sales skills, sellers are actually needed also to develop together with the customers and partners these future circular offerings. So that is what we also found in our study. So that's why I see that innovations and creativity, these kind of topics and as a capabilities are important. And that again, we talked about targets and KPIs. So how should you measure those activities? So those are, and of course all these incentives, how they are changing because of these big trends.
So if I understand you correctly, I will now go home to revise my syllabi and to make sure that I have topics around digital transformation, artificial intelligence, sustainability, and probably notion that we don't really possess the planet, but we just borrowed it from our grandchildren. Thank you, Pia. Thanks a lot for being our guest today.
Thank you so much, Selma. Thank you.